The world as we know it is constantly changing. So I'm currently back in my apartment we're staying in Tel Aviv, and today was probably the most eye-opening experience of the whole journey. Today we actually went into the Palestinian territories. I'm in Israel at the moment, and first of all, I think I've seen some comments, and I think it's extremely ignorant to think that because I'm in a particular country or I'm having relationships with the people there, that I support any kind of political regime. One of the things enough people don't understand is that you actually can't fly into Palestine. You have to go through Israel or come by land via Jordan. In that case, then every American is responsible for George Bush's actions, or in the same respect that me being from London, then I was responsible in supporting the war on Iraq. That's ridiculous, in all respects. And it's also the aspect that you can say, oh, but you voted for them, but we all know how that system goes. So I think it's ignorant for people to say that. I don't think you should condemn a race of people just because of their political structure or things that have happened. If that's the case, I wouldn't talk to any white people anymore after watching 12 Years a Slave. But yeah. So we actually went into Palestinian territories, and for me, this was such an eye-opening experience being in Ramallah, which is probably the temporary capital of Palestine, and it's a fairly kind of can't even say thriving, but to an extent, compared to what's going on in Gaza, it's quite thriving. But just being there and seeing the disparities between Tel Aviv here, where it feels like you're living in a bubble of perfectness, and then stepping out into the reality where you see everything that's going on, it's probably the biggest I've seen the divide. I live in London. And in London, there's a very big class divide. We can see the rich people on this side and where the poor, well, you're fairly poor living on this side. And we can see it, it's so apparent. But in between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv and Ramallah, it's just so prominent and it's so powerful. First of all, there's this great, big, huge fucking wall which is separating the two territories, which that alone is intimidating. It kind of brought me back to when I was in Berlin, seeing that whole wall, and I was thinking, when I saw the wall in my head, the Berlin Wall, I was thinking, how is this possible? How could people separate each other physically with something like this just because they're different or they have different experiences? And then I come into to Israel and I see exactly what I was trying to imagine, and it's very daunting experience seeing. This is a first-hand account. This ain't no newspaper bullshit. Ain't no news report. This is some real shit me seeing it and telling you. So it's a big wall, and you see the wall, and then on the other side, it feels like you step into a different environment. In my lifetime, I've never been witness to a racial divide. I know a class divide, but a racial divide is something which is totally new to me, and it really quite saddens the heart that people are divided on the basis of where they came from or their origins. And it's crazy speaking to the people in Ramallah who are also just living their lives, and just speaking to the people in Israel who also just living their lives, all nice people, but between the two there's literally a big wall which can't be separated. And the scariest experience was probably being on the Palestinian territories and just seeing how rural it is. A lot of it is fairly run down to an extent, and it just opens your eyes to how you can be totally oblivious. When you hear about stories like the civil rights movement, and you hear about like South Africa, even the Holocaust to an extent, you think, how could people be living while this was happening? How could people be living in different countries while this was going on? But that's exactly what we do now. I mean, I'm living in London. We see what we see on the news. We draw our assumptions for it. We write stupid comments on YouTube, but none of us are really actively involved or trying to, or seeing the extent of what this caused. So for me, it was crazy. Being in Ramallah and just crossing over the border was like crossing into a separate world to an extent. And it got to a point where I was quite scared. It was an amazing experience. Met some nice people. I met a rapper from Palestine, a Storm Trap. He's got 1.5 million followers on SoundCloud, which is extremely impressive. You should check him out. And it was crazy how he was saying like artists can come to Israel, for instance. Like Madonna came to Israel, and his friends, a couple of guys from Palestine had tickets, but they wouldn't let them through to come and watch it. And then likewise, vice versa. The whole conflict is crazy. But on coming back through the border, we were kind of left on our own. And I'll be honest with you, I was scared. You know, an argument even broke out in the street, and we saw a couple of soldiers holding M16s. And literally, as we drove past, you start hearing gunshots, pop, 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 pop in the air. And that was an experience that, boy, I didn't expect to have. What it did for inspiration, everyone keeps asking me, have I found my inspiration? I'm searching for the inspiration and I feel it coming. I wrote a piece yesterday called Shalom Salam or Salam Shalom. I haven't given it a title yet, but the inspiration is coming slowly but surely, and we'll see what the end product will be. Well, I hope that was more insightful, and time from that. Peace. Will rule the world.